Welcome to Black Women's World Podcast, the BWWP.
Don't be giving me no responsibilities, But it wasn't until you told me, and I want to say it the best I can for the sake of proving my comprehension, and correct me or sure it up, please, was that you said certain words don't exist in many African languages that we use because the colonizer did not make room for translation.
Yes.
So can you explain that to the BWWP audience?
Let's explain.
And everybody calling me auntie. What?
I know, right? No, you were like, I'm sorry.
What?
Welcome to Black Women's World Podcast, the BWWP, where we get VIP access into the lives of Black women, or as we like to call us here, our SistaNistas. We get to hear from some of our favorite SistaNistas as they share their worlds with us and create connections, exchange realities, ideas, and baby, we get to recognize and celebrate how powerful we really are. Welcome to our queendom. I'm your self-discovery companion, your professional peacemaker, and I'm your host, TracyMac. Come on in and relax and sit with me for just a little while. Peace.
Well, hello, everybody. I am TracyMac, your professional peacemaker. Some even call me a self-discovery companion. But right now, I am hosting the Black Women's World Podcast. That's the BWWP, baby. Don't get it twisted. And I am so excited today to have as my special VIP SistaNista, Lucie Matsouaka. Listen, y'all, this woman here is amazing, a proud woman from the continent of Africa, the country Cameroon. But I want to tell you just a little bit about Lucie before we get started. She is a certified professional career coach who believes it's not enough to only help people look good on paper, but in a job interview. That's wonderful in and of itself. She's been recognized with her work around the globe, invited to Belgium to speak at the Golden Artistic Awards Festival, and so many wonderful things that we're going to unpack today. Lucie Matsouaka, my dear African sister, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Oh my God. You keep pumping me up. I'm like, honor for me to be here, Tracy. It is such an honor for me to be here. Thank you so much for having me. When you reached out, I was like, oh my goodness, Tracy, I admire you a lot.
Oh, Lucie.
But I do, and I'm gonna tell you one thing. I'm not sure if I think I told you that before. The first time I met you, I think it was before the pandemic.
Yes.
We were in an event in Raleigh with Dina.
Yes.
And there's something about you that I loved immediately. There's so many. Sometimes women are like they're not really respecting their husbands in public. I saw the way you introduced your husband in front of all those women, and the way you ushered him in the room. I was like, I can vote for this girl any day. Yeah, I'm like, that's my girl right there. Let's go.
Oh, Lucie, thank you so much.
So you'll be amazed of the things that sell. I mean, little things like that gets me. And I was like, that's a wonderful woman.
Thank you so much, Lucie. That means a lot. That means a lot. And first impressions are lasting because it was at that event. Dina and I, we collaborated together for an event called Food, Folks, and Funds about relationships, money, and health, mental health and physical health. And Lucie, I was drawn to you as well. You were right on the front. And your accent, and I said, who is this woman? And you spoke not just with a pristine accent, but what you had to say. And I don't know if people realize that when you meet somebody and it connects for the first time, you may not jump off right on the beaten path. And it's taken some years, but I am so glad to have you here that our paths cross because I respect your work. I do too respect how you treat your husband and your children and just the global impact you have had. And there's so many different things we could talk about with you, Lucie. Your accomplishments, We're going to get into the anthology you're a part of, the other book that you're featured in. But I want to first start off, the reason why I wanted to talk to Lucie is because in my heart, I have been vexed, and I'm just going to keep it real with the audience, with the way that African American women and African women don't connect as much as I know we could. I don't know if it's the ignorance. I don't know if it's the media, the stereotypes, or a combination of the three. But I just want to bridge that gap. And in one of your chapters, Lucie, in Black Girls Here book, is closing the gap of misunderstanding. And that's really what I would like this episode or episodes to do, is close the gap of misunderstanding. What's your take on that, first of all, before we get into the meat?
Wow. I would say you said something that a lot of people might be a little bit upset with that. And I think you are correct. You're correct. It is hard for us to feel like a family unless we become extremely intentional about it. Yes. I am very intentional about it, and you are as well. Yes. That's the reason why we connect. It's funny how I came in this country 18 years ago, and I couldn't speak English at all. I speak English is my third language. French is my second language. Yemba is my first language from Cameroon, and I studied in French my entire life. And when I came in this country, I remember watching TV and looking at African American. At that time, we used to call Black Americans. So yes. I was like, oh, the Black Americans. I can't wait. When I get to that country, I'm going to see. I thought it was going to be like, wow. And I started to feel like there was like, people were a little bit reserved, and I didn't understand why. And I thought maybe it's the language. I don't, that's the reason, one of the reasons why I worked hard to not becoming an American, but like I will say becoming.
Yeah.
That's like if my family back home is like, yeah, you're too Americanized right now. Like, because I chose to go in the culture. Like I chose to, not walking away from my culture, from my people, but I chose to go in and just be with American people so I could learn and understand what's going on. But I sometimes felt a little bit like hesitance. And I didn't understand why. And one day I remember that a lady in Boston, when I came here, and I remember talking about something that I saw on TV, and I said, Black people are not gonna. Is there a day where Black people are actually going to like rest? And she's like, "You're not Black." I said,
"Yes."
Said, no, you're Black. You're not Black. You're African. Yes. And I'm like, I don't understand. What do you mean I'm not? Yeah, I'm African, but I'm a Black African.
Yes.
In the North we have white Africans. We have all over color. But I don't know. So it was some things like that that made me. I didn't understand. I didn't even know. I didn't know there was a difference. But I was introduced to the difference between African and. I don't understand. I'm Black, so what do you mean? I don't understand.
Yeah, right.
I might be darker than you if you want to think about it.
Yes.
I'm not. So yeah, it was, but. I had to grow a lot. I had to grow a lot. I wanted to. It's funny how I became that person who is not really. I feel like sometimes I feel disconnected to everybody, and I feel a part of everybody at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
I feel like I've traveled so much and I feel connected to so many people, and sometimes I feel like an outsider at the same time. Even with my same people, like you will hear people from Cameroon who are going to be like, "You're not really like us," and I'm like, I don't understand. And I think it's because wherever I go in the world, I
Mm-hmm.
blend in. I choose
Yes.
to make that conscious decision to say, I'm not in my country right now. I'm gonna make the decision. I'm gonna make sure that I go into the culture. I want to learn how they live. I want to do what they do. I want to see, because if you don't understand how people live, how are you going to have conversations? And by the way,
Exactly.
before I let you go, or before I let I say, I was gonna say something. The reason why people are very skeptical, because what you don't know scares you.
Yes. Yes.
People are afraid of what they don't know. So
Yes.
I choose, my husband and I, we actually make that conscious decision to say, we're going to try to go. And all my friends are from everywhere else.
Yes.
Everywhere. I
Yes.
have friends from everywhere.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, Lucy, you said so much, but I thank you for being transparent about it, because you, like many of my other friends from the continent of Africa, I think a lot of people forget that's a whole continent. It's not a country. There are countries within the continent. So I have a friend from Senegal. I have a friend from Nigeria. I have a friend from Morocco. I have a friend from Egypt. And Lucy lives in Cameroon. And one of my line sisters, her name is Shalisha Edgemakor, and she did a program one time about too African to be American and too American to be African, because of the backlash that you get, from your home country, that you become too American, but then Black people in America don't accept, because they feel like you're too African. And how can you be too where you're from? And so I've been having friends from the continent of Africa ever since I was a child. And I hear the anguish sometimes in just being wanted to be treated as a person who happens to be from these other countries. And so, like I said before, I think it's a combination between ignorance, the media, and stereotypes. And if we can just, the courage it took for you, Lucy, and my three other friends who were African born in their African continent, the courage it took for you to make a decision to move to another country when you did not even know the language is the epitome of what we call a SistaNista. Because a SistaNista, we use the acrostic SCREAM, possesses strength, class, royalty, excellence, authenticity, and moxie. That courage, that fortitude, that grit. What was it like for you in Cameroon? And then why did you choose to make the conscious decision to come to America to become an American citizen?
Whew, it's a long thing, but I'm gonna try to give you an idea, okay?
Uh-huh.
Before coming to the US, I traveled to so many countries. So that's another thing. My dad sent us, all his kids, overseas in other countries to study. Some of them went to Europe, some of them went to other African countries, because in Cameroon, the political, it's just, it's a lack of good leadership, everything, like, everything rises and falls on leadership. Like John Maxwell says it well, and it's
Yes.
so true. Yeah.
Yes.
And when the country is not really good, the potential, people have a lot of potential, but they cannot use what they want to use to better their country. So they find another place that's gonna open their arms and give them the chance to live.
Yes.
And I remember I left before coming to the US. I lived in so many countries, but I finally decided to come to the US because I had a sister who was here before.
Okay.
And she was already here. She was in Boston, and I said to her, she kept saying, you know what? Why don't you just come over here? So I was like, okay, let me think. So when I came here, wow, I'm gonna say it was tough at the beginning, because here's the thing. Cameroon is one of the colonies in Africa where we finally have two different languages as national languages.
Okay.
Cameroon, we have more than 250 languages, and I'm gonna say this clearly, languages, because I hear people say dialects. I'm gonna stop the madness.
250 languages.
Different languages. When I hear, I'm gonna pause on this. I don't want to hear people say, you guys speak French and English and 250 dialects. No, stop immediately. I don't want to hear that, because it's disrespectful. Because God created all languages, and I don't want to hear anybody tell me the language of the oppressor is higher just because he is, or maybe has to more value because he has more power. I'm not hearing that. Okay.
Speak it, Lucy. Speak it, Lucy. Speak it.
Let's just close that right there. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You can tell the things that get me angry, but okay, cool. I'm here. I'm back. Okay. We have those languages, and after World War II, England and France won the war, and they divided my country in two different parts. So the French part and the English part. So I happen to be born in the French part of the country, so I speak French. So, but in the country, everything is either in French or in English. I'm talking about the official stuff, like in the government and everything. So, and I hated English. I didn't want to speak English. So I came into this country. I was like, oh Lord have mercy, what am I gonna do now?
And how old were you, Lucy? How old were you?
26 when I came here.
26.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was 26 when I moved to the US. Okay, you know what? That's a good thing to ask the question, because here's the thing. How can you expect me to speak English like you guys when I came here as a full adult? My vocal are already set, okay?
Yes. Yes, because a lot of people assume when people come to this country or whatever that they come as children. And so it's easier to learn language. So you're a full-grown woman.
I was 26 when I moved to the US for the first time ever. I landed in Logan Airport in Boston. Listen to me carefully. The funny thing is, like I said, my vocal cords were completely set. Okay, so it's hard. And I left everything, my career, everything. I was doing international trade. I walked away from all that stuff to come over here, and I felt a little bit bad because I had to start over again. First of all, you cannot start from where you left off, because they're not going to take any of your degrees. So you have to start from scratch. I took ESL classes with my husband.
Wow.
We both did ESL classes.
And for anyone who's listening from around the world, Black women and SistaNistas and SistaNista lovers, ESL stands for English as a Second Language classes.
Yes, I had to. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned this. Yeah, ESL classes are exactly what allowed me to start, because it's like, you study English in school, but I didn't want to speak it.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, people who are from Cameroon, but who are from the English side of Cameroon, they actually speak English fluently, but they have like a British accent instead. Remember the culture.
Right. Just like some Nigerians. Okay.
Exactly, a little bit. Exactly. So they will say things like better instead of better.
Yes.
That's how they say. So I had to. The frustration for me, as a person who had to leave everything and come over here, the frustration came from the fact that I felt like I had to start over again.
Well, you did. I mean, the courage. Yes, you had to start. You said they don't accept your degrees from Cameroon. And why do they accept degrees sometimes from other countries? That's a whole nother thing to look at. Not so much as
if you come from Europe, yes, some of them are a lot. But if you come from
so we even have to look at the bias in that. We have to look at the bias.
Mm-hmm. Of course, like it's not. No.
So I mean, okay, take for instance, I'm well over 26, but for me to have to give up my degrees and have to go to a country to learn a second language at the age of 26, I mean, that in and of itself, and I am not raising another woman up or another one down, but just if African American women and African born women, I'm talking about the entire continent, could ever come together, the courage, the strength, the power that we have, but we allow so many things to keep us divided. And I think that's intentional from the powers that be, because can you imagine with that courage, Lucy, when you stepped off that plane and did not know the language, did not know, even though your sister was here, you still were coming in. I have a great friend named Nikki who owns Nikki Hair Braiding in Knightdale, North Carolina. Plug, because she does my hair. Awesome. She came from Senegal the same way, not knowing, the language and whatever. And when I think about the courage, but you and she, I mean, I dabble in a little Spanish. I know enough to get around and speak, a little bit, un poquito, but I don't know any other language fluently. She knows French, English, Wolof, and Spanish. What was your native language?
Yamba.
Yamba. You know Yamba,
French.
you know French, and you know English. A lot of Black women in America don't know 2 to 3 different languages. And that's something that we're not. You mentioned earlier too, that you said your father sent you to different countries to travel.
Yeah.
Now,
To
I'm not
study.
putting us down. I'm just comparing, the differences. A lot of Americans, we travel outside the country for, luxury, vacations, whatever, but we don't get into the depth of the culture because we're Black Americans. I don't know the white experience. I've traveled to other countries for vacation, for a holiday, as the English say. I lived in Japan, and I was intentional to immerse myself into the culture. I still know a little Japanese. I still know my languages because I chose to immerse myself in the culture. So when you came, Lucie, you ESL, what were some of the initial barriers? Because you're already up against a lot. What were some of the initial barriers that you experienced?
I experienced, of course, the lack of, I couldn't communicate well with people because I didn't understand the language, but the system, the American system is completely different, of course. Even if I grew in Cameroon and I lived in Benin and Burkina Faso, and I visited other countries in Africa and even Europe and everything, and we are very much influenced by the French system. It's different. It is so different. And I had other, besides the frustration, it was the fact that people believe that if you don't speak the language, then you're stupid. So they think you are uneducated. They believe you don't know what you're talking about. So I think that's one of the things that became, it gave me that urge to say, wait a minute, you know what? I was so upset sometimes that people, the misunderstanding of who I am, and I couldn't express myself well to tell people, I'm not who you think I am. This is who I am. So that's actually one of the reasons why I started to learn more. I started to read more. I started to try. And I'll tell you something. At some point, I bought electronic dictionary.
Okay. Yes.
When I was going to school, for example, or maybe when I have a simple conversation with someone, I would say something like, hey, I'm trying to say something, but I don't know what to say. Give me a moment. And I'm like, I typed the word in French.
Yes.
I said, give me a second. I typed the word in French and I press enter. It gives me the word in English, and I show the person. I say, okay, what is this word? How do you say this? And when the person says what it is, I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I continue my sentence. Listen, I'm going to say thank you so much to people who had patience to listen to me.
Yes.
Imagine having a conversation with someone and the person, I'm looking for my words and I'm holding. It's like, hold on one second, I can tell you something. Because I just have so much to say. I want to say something.
Yes.
Patient to live with them like me, but anyway, I got through this. I don't need a dictionary anymore. I'm still not where you guys are, but I'm getting that. I promise. I'm going to continue to work hard, and I work hard.
You do. And listen, not only in your spoken word are you beyond adequate, you are there more than you think you are.
Stay tuned for more of the BWWP. Have you ever heard someone say, been there, done that, and got the t-shirt? Well, when you do, that usually means they have gone through some things, and having the t-shirt is part of the evidence to prove it. So when it comes to being a SistaNista, you already know that you've been there, you've done that. Now, I want to make sure you get your very own limited edition SistaNista t-shirt. It's available at our BWWP online boutique at blackwomensworld.com. Because being a SistaNista is a noun, an adjective, and a verb. And I'm sure you see yourself right now as you have been listening to me describe what being a SistaNista is and just what you've heard so far. So you've been there, you've done that, and you might as well wear the SistaNista t-shirt and be proud to be the SistaNista you are. Remember, this is a limited edition, so order yours while they last and wear it like only you can. To order yours today, go to the BWWP online boutique at blackwomensworld.com.
You're listening to Black Women's World Podcast. Let's continue the conversation.
But in the written word, because Lucie Matsouaka has been, she is an inclusivity, as this makes sense, advocate, and she's a recognized best-selling author because she's in the anthology, and I have it here, and I have read this book here. It's by Dr. Shakina Farmore. We both know Dr. Shakina. I met Dr. Shakina through Dina Hamilton, and when I began to talk to Lucie and she was telling me about this book, I bought the book and I said, I need to read it. And let me tell you, you need to get this book and read Lucie's story about the challenges that I just asked her about, some of the things that we don't think about. And I want to go right here to the subject of language.
Okay.
You and I spoke on the phone, Lucie, and you enlightened me so well that even though I've had other friends from the continent of Africa, we never had the depth of that conversation. And you were telling me, I was saying that one of my Senegalese friend and my Nigerian friend, their daughters will always call their friends auntie. And my daughter said that her friends, she said, they got a lot of aunts. And I said, I know. So I asked my friend, I said, are all of these your sisters? Because I'm the type of person, I've always asked a lot of questions. So, when yes, and I said, wait a minute, all these your sisters? And she said, no. And she said, they're my friends. And I still didn't get it because her children were calling them auntie. And auntie this and auntie that. And she introduced me to one of her, this is Auntie Tracy. And I'm like, I ain't even related to y'all. What in the world? Don't be giving me no responsibilities, But it wasn't until you told me, and I want to say it the best I can for the sake of proving my comprehension, and correct me or sure it up, please, was that you said certain words don't exist in many African languages that we use because the colonizer did not make room for translation.
Yes.
So can you explain that to the BWWP audience?
Let's
Got everybody calling me auntie. What?
I know, right? And then you were like, I'm sorry, auntie. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. Hold on one second. Let me explain this to you. And I'm sorry if you guys feel that way, but hold on, listen. First of all, in Africa, we have, and I don't like to generalize, but many countries in Africa have like family. I don't know how it is right now, but when I was growing up, people have like 5, 6, 7 children. Some families are like 10 kids. So that's fine. Okay. This is not. I'm actually the last child of a family of 6. I have 5 siblings. So my kids already have uncles and aunts that are very real uncles and aunts. Now, the problem with this brother and sister and auntie thing is like, for example, in my language, Yemba, the word cousin doesn't exist, uncle doesn't exist, aunt doesn't exist. We only have brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers. So when I was growing up, my parents, for example, my father's sisters would come home and my dad says, say hi to mama this or mama that, mama in French, or mom. And if I want to say in my language, it's ma. So my dad would be like, ma Christine or ma Pauline or ma this. Ma means mom. So, and my mom, I say just ma. And then everybody else is Madas and Madas. And for my dad is Pa.
Okay.
And for everybody is Padres or maybe Pa. And then
So his
you
uncles are Pa in their name.
Yes, with
Okay.
the uncle you put Pa and then you put the name. So I grew up calling all them Papa or Pa or fathers. Now you expect me to know. I came in this country. That's the way I raised my kids. So my cousins, in the dictionary, my cousins are my brothers. I actually have a brother back home. If I dare saying to somebody, this is my cousin, he's gonna feel like I'm trying to divide the family. Like,
Wow.
how could you introduce me to
Wow.
people as your cousin? What do you mean by that? Because that's not how we grew up. Now, my daughter had this thing when one day recently, I had a friend that I met when one of my dad was traveling a lot for his work. And from one city to another one, I met so many people in Cameroon. And there's a little girl that I met when I was 11 years old. We were 11 at the time. The funny thing is, we grew up together. We're still friends today. I'm 44-year-old and we're still friends today.
Okay.
So she finally moved to Europe and she's here in Texas. So I went to her house one time a few summers ago with my daughter, with my kids. And my kids call her auntie. So we spent a few days to her house and then we come back. And one day she says, Mommy, which side is she on? Dad's or your side? I said, she's my friend. She's like, wait, what? So all my life, she said, I can't believe this. And she turned to her brother and she said, Buddy, can you imagine this? These parents have been lying to us.
All her life, she been thinking this is her auntie, and she's a friend.
Her life. So I have friends like that became so close that they call them uncle and aunties, but my cousins, they really call them like they think they're my brothers. And she was like, I can't believe, no, I thought, this person was your sister. This person, and she says to her brother, I thought my parents had so many brothers and so many sisters, but how did it happen? And we're only two.
Your child. But you know what, Lucy? I find it not only fascinating, but powerful. And the reason why I say that is because can you imagine if you have people in your life, because I think words matter. If you have people in your life and you say, this is my brother, the connotation, the function that word takes on, this is my auntie, this is my papa, this is my mom. You know, it just seems like the roles would be more family based. And maybe the colonizers' language has separated us in more ways than one. Yes. Because I have girlfriends who I feel like they're my sisters, sometimes even more so than my blood relatives. But we're so close, I wouldn't mind my daughter calling them auntie. And I wouldn't mind their children calling me auntie, but it's not in our culture. But the treatment is the same. And so I'm wondering if maybe in the dilution of the languages, as well as in the separatism of the people, you know, was that intentional not to include? Because I love Nollywood, I love Nigerian movies, and I see where they're calling the women ma, you know, and different things. But I don't know, what do you think about that, Lucy, especially having to adapt to this culture? And I know your children are so funny.
My kids are Americans, okay? They were born here in Boston, so they also have to get to know this culture. So they are at home. They are Cameroonian and Congolese, but outside they're Americans because my husband is from Congo. So, but anyway, your question was, you wanted to know. I'm not sure if I really heard your question.
How do you feel about the language being diluted to me? And I'm just using that word, not to put this country down, because I love this country, but the language and the things that the colonizers did that I don't love. Do you think it kind of dilutes the relationships?
I think it does. And let me point something real quick. I'm not sure how people are going to take this, but I'm going to go into Okay. When if some languages are extremely important, okay. If someone wants to take away your culture, the first thing he's going to take is your language.
Yes. Yes.
The language is everything. That's the reason why I encourage people to learn other languages. Like I used to be extremely, um, um, I was a little bit ashamed as well when I couldn't express myself in English well and all that stuff. And now I see it as the fact that I can understand and speak three languages. I see it as a plus. But let me go back to that language thing. If someone takes away your language, it takes your entire culture. Because in language, you have the culture itself, the things that you do. You said words are important.
Yes.
If you say it's my brother, then you're gonna act like it.
Yes.
It's unconscious. It's in the subconscious, the subconscious mind. If you say a word, you're gonna act like what you
Yes.
say.
Yes.
And the reason why you felt uncomfortable when somebody like they call you auntie, you're like, oh, I don't want to take any responsibility. You felt that way because if someone calls you your aunt, her aunt, it takes you feel
Yes.
like, hey, wait, I'm becoming
Yes.
her aunt, which means I'm
Yes.
responsible for something. That's what I'm
Yes.
saying. So I feel like languages can divide or separate. Now, that's why I feel like people have to be extremely they have to be aware, they have to educate themselves. I was reading a book by a Jewish business owner who was who said that there are some words that don't exist in Jewish as well, and the way you say it affects. You see how they have a certain mindset.
Yes.
It's because their language have a certain way to say things. For example, even in China,
Yes.
the word crisis doesn't exist. I was reading in a book. In the language Chinese, crisis does not exist. It does not. The word crisis doesn't exist. That this is what it means. It means when the same way that we use in English or even in French to say crisis. This is the same way they use to say opportunity. So do you understand what I mean?
Yes,
like
yes,
in
yes.
French, when there is something in the marketplace, and we're like we are afraid, and in French we say crise, crise, crise. In English, you guys say crisis, crisis, crisis. The Chinese hear opportunity, opportunity, opportunity.
Wow.
So I feel like the power of the language. So when the European languages are unfortunately they rich in certain things, but in some of the other things, it translates their culture and their mindsets. So you can by like listen, I have a book that I wrote for emerging entrepreneurs. It's called Not Everyone Wins, and I have and it's on Amazon and everything. But guess what I had to do? This is what I did for that book. I chose, instead of translating the book, I chose to rewrite the same book in French. I'll tell you why. Because the things that I really wanted to say to that French audience, when I was putting them in the English words, it wasn't working. And I was afraid they were going to understand something else. And I'm telling you, the language is so important. And listen, I'm going to say something. I came to the US 18 years ago, and some of the movies that I used to watch over there that were translated from American English to French. Now that I understand American English, I rewatched those movies, and I'm like, what in the world? That's not what I saw. No, that's not. And I'm like, I tell my people over there, I wish you understand, because this is not what it's not.
It's not, and it's amazing because even some of the same things said in the same language don't mean the same thing. And as you mentioned, like Chinese, that's tonal. So the inflections, the rise and fall, because I think, and if nothing else, as Black women, we speak the same language different. I don't care where you're from, but if we can hone in on some of the things, because women who are from Africa who come here by choice, if women who are in America whose ancestors came here by force, If we can only get together and talk about these things, I get goosebumps. I got them now.
Do you know how we're going to raise our kids and understanding?
Yes. Yes, because I was a young auntie. I was an auntie at 14 years old, and I did everything for my nephews from then on up. I mean, everything. I felt like I owed them. I would take them with me. We didn't call babysit. That would just mean with my nephews. And so later, they're all grown up now, but I know what it meant to me. So you were right. When she said your auntie, I was like, wait a minute. But I do feel responsible for the young lady now. That relationship grew, and now she's my child too, and I think it was that power of words, even, and even a friend, and something you said too, dealing with language and words, is the bad N word that's used in America. And it's in the book. You guys got to get the book. Black Girls Here. Lucie's in this book. You've got to get it. We'll put the link in the show notes about the N word. I don't want to blow the thunder on the book, but I think it's important in context of what we're speaking.
Oh, I have to tell you. I can explain that.
I'm going to get you to tell it, because I knew in Spanish, Black is negro. And in Japanese, it's Caucasian. And so when we were in Japan, they were amazed. Some of the daycare workers would touch my daughter's hair. She had big Afro puffs. Or they would, say Caucasian and touch the skin, not with harmful pressure, but pressure to see if the Black was going to rub off. But, you learn, some people learn languages and try to learn the cuss words first, whatever that is. But I just thought, okay, in Spanish, negro is Black, and it sounds like the bad N word. But tell the audience, the BWWP audience, about your experience being called the N word.
Yeah, listen, as a matter of fact, you said in Spanish, negro, in French is negro. It's the same thing. In French is negro. Of course, here is the thing. When I was in Boston, I remember someone, oh my God, that story, I had to tell you, right? We were in class, and then that lady, I had two friends in class, and those two friends, they're from Eastern Europe, and I put their names in the book. No, I put some. I told the story in the book, but they're not their real names. So we were in college, and we were so close. We started the school year together, and they are, listen to me carefully, guys. They're white from Eastern Europe, which means really white. But they're the only two ladies I could relate to in the class.
Wow.
The only two. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we had so much in common. We got to the class, everybody was speaking English fluently. I was struggling with English. I was still struggling. They were both, one of them is from, I forgot what the name, but they were struggling with English too. So, and they came in the US as adults, like me, and they were married with kids as well. So, and we were like struggling. So we got together because we became good friends, because we were struggling. We had the same challenges in this country as immigrants, women in America. And the funny thing is, we got so close that we became so, and then one day, there's that one of them, both of them were smoking, and I kept telling them, why are you doing this to yourself? For some reason, because of my culture. Yes. My culture, I couldn't see that. I was like, why are you doing this to yourself? It's so beautiful. You're going to mess up your heart. And one day, one of them goes to the bathroom. She comes back cracking up. Listen to me, guys. She is laughing out loud, cracking up. And she has that dog, it's a flyer that she from the wall. She gets that, and she's cracking, and she's like, and the girls started to crack up, because they're like, what is so funny? And she shows them the picture. There was a Black person over there and then it said, no N
words. Okay, no N words. Okay.
No N words allowed.
Whoa.
In the bathroom. So the thing says no N words allowed in the bathroom. So they cracking up, and then everybody's laughing. We were like 5 in the group sitting on the table. They laugh, and I was like, what's so funny? And she gives it to me, and she's like, look at this. I just like, look at this. And I was like, I don't understand why you What's so funny? And then the other one does this. And she
Nudges her.
shoulder and she says, and she's like, oh no, Lucy, I'm so sorry. It's not you, it's the other ones. I'm like, what do you mean the other ones? She said, oh no, you're a good one, you're a nice one, you're a good one. So you're not, I'm like, what do you mean? And I was just like, I don't understand. And she said, okay, I say, but I'm black too. My skin is black. Yeah. So if you were laughing at this, saying that you were excited that it was no people like me in the bathroom, and so she said, oh no, you're a good one, you're a kind, you're a nice one. I said, and then for the entire afternoon, before we all, she was so they were uncomfortable in class. I already had moved. I was like, why are they so mad? Like, what? I don't understand. Why are you so mad? Why are you so? Yeah. Why do you feel frustrated? Why do you feel the need to apologize like 10,000 times? So that's me, because I've never been called that, and I've never had that experience. Because listen to me, I come from a country and a continent where it does not exist.
Now hold up, wait a minute. Let's put a pin in it. I made a rhyme, y'all. Did you catch it? Listen, this ends part 1 of my conversation with the amazing Lucie Matsouaka. My camera room sister is simply amazing. Between her work as a career coach and what she does in partnership with the UN Center for Peace, I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna want to come back next week to hear part 2 as we talk about African women and African American women closing the gap. Can y'all imagine how powerful we would be if we didn't let ignorance, the media, and stereotypes keep us separate, or at least withdrawn from one another? When we connect the strength we have, baby. Listen, come back next week for part 2. Closing the gap, African American women and African women. We're going to close this here gap on the BWWP. Peace. You've been listening to Black Women's World Podcast, the BWWP, brought to you in part by TracyMac Solutions for Life Institute, coaching and training services. No doubt you have enjoyed being in our world, and it doesn't have to stop here. Head on over to blackwomensworld.com. This is my personal invitation to you to stay connected with me on social media and more. I'd love to see you there, and I'm so grateful you came to be with me here. Invite someone else to join you in our queendom next time so they can feel the vibe of our tribe of SistaNistas and SistaNista lovers too. Remember to be kind, be authentic, be generous, be excellent, be grateful, and while you're at it, go ahead and be extraordinary, because that's just what SistaNistas do, on purpose through mission with passion and compassion. It's a Black woman's world, baby, and you, my SistaNista, are proof. I'm your self-discovery companion, your professional peacemaker, and your host, Tracy Mac. Wherever you are in the world, may you love and be loved by somebody. Peace.